Hello, good afternoon, guys. Yeah, looks good, I think. So thanks for being here. How is everybody today? Hope you're well. Happy Sunday, and Blood Angels Army List show 22nd of August, sorry. But yeah, no, thanks for hanging out, guys. See a few people in chat already. Nathan, Jar Miniatures, Evan, Balanced Hydra, Adam, James, Sellers, Carey, quite a lot of people here. Steel Rain, good afternoon. Exo, how you doing? Left-handed Texan, I think I missed you. Benjamin, maybe as well. So, good afternoon, guys. Hope you're well. Greetings, Highland Phoenix. Wouldn't be an Army List show without Highland Phoenix showing up at the last minute, would it? Okay, so, yeah, we've got 4 lists to go into today, as always. And thank you, Nathan. Appreciate that. Just becoming a member, very much appreciated. Where is my folder of lists? Here we go. So 4 lists to look at today. Anthony, Balanced Hydra, Caps Boy, and Christopher Mason. A couple of new people in here. But I think Anthony and Balanced Hydra are usually around, so a couple of interesting new lists, hopefully from non-members. And Robert Watson, good afternoon. Hey, also Adam, how you doing? So yeah, we're gonna get started in just a few minutes. If you are new here and you want to submit a list for the future, what you need to do is head over to youtube.com/c/Blood Angels Commander. Click over on the community tab. And in the latest community post, doesn't matter what it is, at the moment it's this one about battalion detachments, go ahead and hit comment here and put your list into a comment. Just whatever Battlescribe exports it at is absolutely fine. Text, just text, and I'll find it here and I'll add it to the queue. The queue for members is about 3 weeks. The queue for non-members is quite a lot at the moment. So, maybe like 10 weeks. So if you don't want to get a timely list, but I mean, we are in Discord and you can hop onto Discord. And if you tag me on Discord, I try and answer all the questions, etc. as well. Yeah, so 2 new members, I guess. Nathan Pinch, much appreciated. Thank you for joining and supporting the channel, and also Sellers, appreciate it, buddy. Nice to see some long-term people becoming members as well. Hopefully. Yeah, I mean, it's just the start of year 2 for the Blood Angels Commander channel, I guess. We've got the new, I've got the last video to come in the tier list series, and then I think once we do that last video, we will, I'll be sharing like all the tier lists, so you can just view the tier lists without viewing the videos, kind of like how I normally share the presentations for all the slides and stuff. So I'll have a document ready in the next week or so. So it'll be very easy to look up the tier lists. So that's coming. And then after that, I get 2 new series in the works. So you'll see possibly the first one of the new series this Friday. Yeah, maybe this Friday. If it's not quite ready, it'll be the last video of the tier list series. But yeah, cool. Covered all 4 of your Forge World units. Well, we got super heavy Forge World units to look at next week, and I have a couple of super heavies, so that was going to be a fun one. Just saw the Auspex Tactics video on the Primarch Killer Grey Knight Mortal Wound Librarian. 11 mortal wounds in a turn for 105 points. Okay, I mean, at this point in 9th edition, nothing will surprise me anymore with the balance that GW have for stuff. Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched that video, but I guess I will have to watch it. And I think Colin just got Grey Knights, so I think he's ordered the Grey Knight Codex, so hopefully I'll get a look at that next week. But lots of death company. Yeah, I mean, 11 mortal wounds in a turn. Sisters are pretty bad, like with those Stormbolters for the 80 points doing 6 mortal wounds. I'm fighting against Sisters tomorrow night, and they will for sure. I think Andrew's running the 2 Dominion squads that can do the 6 mortal wounds in a turn. He's probably running Flamers that can do mortal wounds in a turn, and then he's probably running multi-meltas. I actually don't know if they tweaked that multi-melta strategy for Sisters. I don't think it's quite as good as it was before. But, alright. You're going to bet on Sisters tomorrow night? Fair enough. It's a tough one. I think I've lost the last 3 games against Sisters, but I had lost the last couple of games against Death Guard, and we finally turned that around and made a solid victory. So, I'm running that new list that I think is much better. It's much closer to the list that I ran before that had 11 wins in a row. And I was going to say I will do a video on that list, because that's probably going to be my tournament list. I'll probably make a video on it here in the next week or so. And for anyone that tuned in last night, I just was finishing my Chaplain on a bike. The paint job for him is like 90% complete. So, cool. All right, so first list for today then. We're looking at Anthony Heatley, I think is how you would say it. All right. So, let's make a start. And do you know what? The poll that we put on the community tab last week actually quite surprised me. I never actually checked how many votes we had, but we did get 655 votes on this poll. 62% of players are taking battalions. Only 10% are doing double patrol, which I guess makes sense, right? Because double patrol, you limit yourself to 4 elite slots, and that can be quite difficult for Blood Angels. And then 25% of people are trying the patrol push to the Vanguard, which is nice because you get 9 elite slots. 8 elite slots, and you don't have to take too many troops. So I actually thought Patrol plus Vanguard might be higher. I mean, you do take a 3 CP penalty for doing that, and then I guess 4% do something else. But yeah, battalions at 62%, that surprised me a little bit. Because, you know, we talk about... I have not scored many points in 9th edition or had many points taken away from me from OBSEC. I mean, maybe it's the meta that I'm in, but like a lot of the time, a lot of armies are very, very elite based. You know, I was looking at Colin's list actually that we played last week, the Death Guard list, and like he literally had no troops. Like it was just all elites. Steel Rain says he switched back to an all melee list and it's working really well. Yeah, I mean, there was that tournament. I probably need to make a video on that guy's tournament list, right? Where he finished like 3rd or 4th at the GT. I just hadn't got round to it. Next week, Jar Miniatures is just a Vanguard. Okay, bringing a few troops. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's valid to bring a couple of troops. But yeah, I need to have a look at that guy that finished 4th in the GT and work out what his list was and talk it over. So we'll do that in the coming weeks as well. Good morning, Scott. Thanks for being here. Okay. So, hi, Commander. Made some changes to the list on the show. Can you help me use the last 10 points? I hope it's okay to change the list. All right. So I think he means he changed the list and resubmitted it to me. So we've got 1 relic and we've got an Angel's Ascendant. Alright, so we've got Captain, Gift of Foresight, Iron Resolve, Jump Pack, Mastercrafted Weapon, Relic Blade, and a Storm Shield. So this is pretty much a Commander Dante style character, is it? He's got a Storm Shield and a 3 damage Relic Blade, and then he's got Gift of Foresight, and yeah, Iron Resolve as well. Can he take all that? I mean, I guess. Yeah. Okay, I forget, I haven't run a regular captain for a while. A captain has what, 4 wounds? 5 wounds? Because it's captain on the bike that is 6, right? A regular captain, 5 wounds. So this moves him out to 6 wounds, 6 plus feel no pain. Gift of Foresight and the 3 damage Relic Blade. It's fine, I guess. It's nice that he doesn't take the -1 to hit, right? With the Relic Blade, which is kind of the biggest problem with a Thunderhammer on a captain. Unfortunately, a captain on a bike can't take the Relic Blade. It's just the jump pack one, and it does have -3 AP, so it's kind of a middle ground, I guess. I'm actually wondering, like. Yeah, I mean, I guess I was going to say it might be better to take the Hammer of Baal here, but you'd have to spend more points, right? You'd have to spend like 10 more points. Okay, how about an interview with Jack Harper's list? I mean, maybe. We got Chris Chance on the channel before. I don't know Jack Harper myself, so maybe if someone knows how I could contact him, we could definitely do it. Okay, then we have a Librarian with Veil of Time and Psychic Fortress, and the Jump Pack and Quake Bolts. And this is kind of okay. I feel like recently Null Zone has been very, very important, or I think Null Zone is still underrated, I guess. So I would probably ditch one of these 2 powers to get Null Zone, or try and make him the chief Librarian and get a 3rd power in there. And then the Sanguinary Priest, who, as you notice in this list, isn't the Selfless Healer. So this is interesting. Someone else is running the Sanguinary Priest not as Selfless Healer. This is how I ran him last week. and I've actually been building a Sanguinary Priest without a jump pack, so I'm actually going to run him without the jump pack and without Selfless Healer. But this is interesting that other people are starting to drop Selfless Healer as well, just because it is 35 points. And yeah, Null Zone is inconsistent, I guess. The way to make it more consistent, I guess, is with Psychic Mastery, right? Null Zone, you need a 6 on 2d6, which is... let me pull up any dice. If you roll 2d6 and you need a 6... it's 72%. If you take Psychic Mastery, it's 83%. So if you take Psychic Mastery and you save a command point for the reroll, then it is 95% reliable. So, I mean, you can make Null Zone... Is it 7 for Null Zone? It probably is. It's just every other power is a 6, right? I got really lucky when I played Death Guard this week and rolled a 9, and he tried to deny it and he failed. But yeah, maybe it's a 7 for Null Zone. So it's a 6 with Master. Okay, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, I wouldn't. It's like every other power is 6, right? So it's just like the one power that's actually the one power that actually can hurt you as well is a 7. Yeah, okay, so it's a 6. So it's 92% with the reroll. I mean, that's still pretty reliable. I guess it's only 75% though if you don't take Psychic Mastery, right? So yeah, I mean, I guess that's the value of Psychic Mastery. You add 17% to the reliability. It goes from 3/4 of a chance, or yeah, 3/4 up to over 9/10. So yeah, I wasn't running Mastery, but when I see those numbers like that, my list has actually been tweaked to include Mastery. That's why I've dropped the jump pack off mine. But yeah, I guess if you're going to do Null Zone, you probably need to run Psychic Mastery. Quake Bolts is very good as well. I like Quake Bolts a lot because the great thing about Quake Bolts is that you don't require the unit to have core or character, right? Every other buff that you try and do to like melee requires core or character, whereas Quake Bolts just basically says each time a melee attack is made against a unit that's felled, add 1 to the hit roll. So like previously I've been using Centurions, for example, right? And Centurions, there's no way to buff their to hit beyond a 3. Well, Quake Bolts is the one way that you can make Centurions hit on 2s. And I guess not many people run Centurions, but if you are going to run Centurions, being able to hit with 2s with those strength 10 -5 3 damage drills is going to be pretty darn nice. Their biggest weakness, I guess, is the fact that you couldn't buff their ballistic skill. Their weapon skill. Okay. So this is a battalion because we move into 1 squad of infiltrators, 1 squad of incursors, and 1 intercessor squad with Autobolt rifles. And I guess this makes sense to me. You know, 1 squad of infiltrators protect the backfield, 1 squad of incursors, some sort of forward deployment, and then 1 squad of intercessors to sort of push middle or something like that. I think you could do the same sort of tactic with assault intercessors. What these Autobolt rifle assessors do more damage in shooting. The assault intercessors obviously do a little bit more damage in combat, but both are fine. Yeah, I mean, the problem is the librarian with the 3+ ballistic skill, but what can you do? I mean, I suppose, yeah, there's not much you can do. One of your characters with the bolt gun needs to take this. This is why it's great if you have like a tech marine or an eliminator, if you have Quake Bolts. Okay, elite-wise, 5 Blade Guard veterans and 175 points, and this is what I'm running. 5 of them to push center board is pretty strong. Save CP to transhuman them almost every turn. A Judiciar with the Selfless Valor stratagem, and the Armor Indomitus, I guess. So the Judiciar has an extra wound, it has that potential 3+ invulnerable save, and it has the 6-inch Selfless Valor, which can be used very, very effectively. To get into range and make the enemy fight last. We then have 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, both with Frag Storms, Macroplasmas, Onslaughts, and Fists. And I think this is fine. I think you could swap out Stormbolters. The only disadvantage of the Frag Storms is obviously you can't shoot in melee, but the Stormbolters bring very little to the battle it's probably going to be 4 strength 4 shots at max range, 8 strength 4 shots in rapid fire range. So Stormbolters might be a little bit better for our chapter, but I guess if you're up against like a horde based list, frag storms are going to be a little bit ahead, but it's very, very, very minor. Put Quake Bolts on a core unit sergeant with Angel's Ascendant, then it can at least get a reroll. Oh, that's interesting actually, yeah. I never thought of that, Adam. If you did put Quake Bolts on like a Blade Guard veteran sergeant and he was within range of your captain, if you rolled a 1, for example, he could re-roll the hit for the Quake Bolts. That's actually a pretty cool, interesting point, I guess. Never even thought about that. Okay. Sanguine Guard is an 8, 2 Infernal Pistols. Swords and axes mix, which I think is probably still fine. I kind of mix swords and axes, maybe leaning a little bit more towards axes. Maybe they're slightly better right now. Vanguard veterans, 3 Storm Shields, Lightning Claws, 2 with Thunder Hammers and Storm Shields. So sort of like a minimum size unit with a couple of Thunder Hammers thrown in. It's okay. I think the biggest weakness with these Vanguard veterans is that the Thunder Hammers hit on 4s. So if you can find some way, i.e. your Quake Bolts, to make them a little bit more reliable, that would also be good. We then have Invader ATVs times 2, and I don't see any reason to run them in a single squad here, because you can't resurrect them, right? And they're not core and they're not character, so there's actually these should be separated. Like, they shouldn't be one squad, because if the enemy wants to shoot at them, make it difficult for the wounds. Like, you basically stop the wounds from overflowing to the other model, right? You have plenty of space in fast attack to do that with this current list, and yeah, I can literally see no advantage to having them in a single squad here. If there is an advantage, someone in the chat let me know, but I think they should be split up. And then Eliminators, and Highland Phoenix has already pointed out that Eliminator Sergeant could easily take the Quake Bolts. I guess the only problem there is then you lose some of your ability to do some sniper fire, but you get a much more reliable Quake Bolts, right? I guess 83%. Probably on a weapon skill of, on a ballistic skill of 3+, you probably make Quake Bolts like 3 out of 4 times in the battle. Whereas if it's on the Eliminator Sergeant with this 2+, you probably make it 4 out of 5 times in the battle. Potentially you make it every time. So I feel like there would be value. I thought it said it picked Angel's Ascendant. Angel Ascendant means that he's given a piece of war gear to... It means he's given a piece of war gear to a sergeant already, though, right? But I'm not seeing one unless I'm not. I think he's paid for Angel's Ascendant, and he's not given any war gear to any sergeant from what I can see. And he said he had 10 points spare. Okay. ATVs in a squad works with the fallback and shoot stratagem. Okay, James, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, that's about the only advantage. But I think it's better to split them up, right? I think if they're split up, you can probably move them. Isn't Quake Bolts the war gear? Yeah, but I mean, it wouldn't be Angel's Ascendant at that point. It would just be one extra relic, right? Which he's already paid for. So I'm not sure what Angel's Ascendant is for here. But he said he had 10 points extra, so we need to figure out how to spend 10 points. One squad of Eliminators on their own. I found it was kind of difficult to get that much work out of them. Like, I might, if this was me, I might actually put the Las Fusils on these 2 Eliminators and go for, like, anti-armor firepower rather than trying to snipe, because I think when we tried it with just one squad of Eliminators, especially if you come up against Death Guard or something that are toughness 5, right? You're going to get 3 shots against a character, hitting on 2s probably, so maybe all 3 hit, but then only wounding on 4s, so maybe 2 wounds. They make 1 save or something, so it's going to take you 3 turns to kill a single character potentially. I think eliminators work if you run 2 squads of them. You cannot revive an ATV. That's correct. You cannot revive ATVs. They FAQ'd that, and I guess you're right. You could use transhuman on the ATVs as well. Still, I'm trying to decide there, right? Like, so if you have the ATVs separate, it just makes it much harder for the enemies to choose targets when they're shooting, or they have to be much more precise with their, with shooting them down, I guess. I think I would keep them split. 10 points is Icarus rocket pods on Dreads. That's very true. I mean, the rocket pods usually provide a little bit of firepower throughout the game, averaging 2 strength 7 -1/2 damage shots per turn. It's not bad. Good afternoon, Tony. How you doing? I think Angel's Exemplar is... So yeah, is this supposed to be Angel's Exemplar? But I mean, he's already wrote it here. So I think he said Angel's Exemplar for 1 CP here. Okay. But yeah, I think I would put Quake Bolts on the Eliminators or the Vanguard Veterans. I'm wondering if, like, it's 25 points to get this guy up to Chief Librarian. Would that be a better upgrade? Remember, he does have 10 points left over, so it's actually 11 points left over. So we just need to find 14 points to give him the Chief Librarian upgrade. Give him 1 more power, like Null Zone. And then give him that reliability on his psychic. I kind of think that's probably going to be possibly the most value you could get here. How you could do it, I guess we could drop one of these Thunder Hammers. I think you could. So he's got 11 points. Yeah, so he's got 11 points. Drop one of these Thunder Hammers and replace it with a Lightning Claw. So that gives him another 9. So that's 20. Drop one of the Infernal Pistols here. That's 25. That would make us give the 25 points for the Chief Librarian. Probably take Quake Bolts off this guy and give them to Blade Guard Veterans or the Eliminators, and then give this guy a 3rd Psychic Power, which I think is Null Zone. I think that's the best choice here. Because that makes your Psychic Fortress more reliable, which is great around your Dreadnoughts. Like, it's just really solid around the Dreadnoughts. It means that if you do have something arriving from Deep Strike, like the Vanguard Vets, you can cast Veil of Time on them, again, with about a 10 or 11% more chance of it going off. And then you have the Null Zone if you think it's needed. And... yeah, when you make him Chief Librarian, for sure, give him Hero of the Chapter and give him Psychic Mastery, which gives him +1 to all his psychic tests. And I think I wasn't so on board with this character, but like, he is actually really, really, really strong. He can win games for you kind of by himself if you get a clutch Null Zone off, and you can make your Null Zone cast percentage. What did we say? 92% or something? With as long as you have 1 CP for the reroll, it's a 92% chance you can cast your Null Zone, which is pretty useful. Okay. Blade Guard Judicar for the middle. Redemptors, fire support. This is actually quite a lot like my list, actually. The Blade Guard, the Redemptors, the Sanguinary Guard, and the Vanguard Veterans. They're kind of all the same. I like Invader ATVs. If you don't need something to buff them, I think they're pretty useful. Eliminators, a little bit of question mark around just 1 squad. I think Steel Rain was saying you could use the Eliminators to just do actions. I mean, if you're going to do that, I guess take the Instigator Bolt Rifle. The Instigator Bolt Carbine on the Sergeant. That gives them the double move, so they can move 6 inches, they can shoot, they can move another 6 inches, and you could maybe... And they're also Phobos, which gives you even more options to do actions. Yeah, and... I guess he got confused. Okay, so he's actually got 2 relics of the chapter, doesn't he? Because he's got Armor Indomitus here, and he's got quake bolts here. Okay, you could drop the eliminators for some company veterans. I feel like both of them don't do a whole lot of killing when it's just one squad. If you did do company veterans, you get like 2 guys with lightning claws and storm shields for, I think it's 56 points. So that would be another way to do it, that would get you 19 points back, which would also give you the chief librarian. So you could take company veterans here, and because company veterans don't require like a force organization slot because you have a captain in the list, you could do that as well. And I think I would lean towards what models you use for company veterans. I use Stern Guard veterans. I was going to say, I think I would lean towards the company veterans here because one squad of eliminators on their own. I struggled with just one squad. I ran them in like 3 or 4 games, but you know, Tony is right. They are very mobile, so I guess trade off the mobility against survivability. Well, possibly not, I suppose, because these guys have camo cloaks. So trade off. But I think you do want Chief Librarian in this list. Like, I think it makes this list quite a bit stronger. Okay, and then Armor Indomitus. Someone's saying like maybe Rites of War or Visage of Death. Was it Visage of Death might be better here? You know, the Judiciar is likely to be around the 5 Blade Guard veterans. So Armor Indomitus is only going to come into play if the enemy gets to attack him. They're not going to be able to shoot him, I suppose, unless they have Lookout Sir, unless it's protection against enemy snipers. Because he normally doesn't have any sort of invulnerable save, and he doesn't have that many wounds. But remember, when you use Selfless Valor to heroic intervene, you do not need to end in engagement range. You just need to end within range to cast your 3-inch Temper Mortis the enemy fights last. So the enemy could be 6 inches away. You heroic intervention forward like 4.9 inches, staying out with engagement range on the enemy, and then essentially they cannot fight you. But you can make them fight last. So Armor Indomitus is maybe a bit of a lower value idea or pick here. Alright, let's have a talk about scoring. We've got 3 Phobos units, or we've got 3 objectives, 3 troop units, and 2 of them are Phobos. We also have another Phobos unit, so we'll take that into account as we move forward. For anti-horde firepower, we have a bunch of Angelus bolt guns. We have the onslaught cannons on the Redemptors. I guess we have some twin auto bolt rifles. I think they're Assault 6 on those Invader ATVs. I actually don't own any Invader ATVs. I want to buy them. When I said that I wanted to buy them on stream, everybody said I'm an idiot, but it doesn't change the fact that I would like a couple of them. I actually think if you compare them against attack bikes, they're just nice because they're only 25 points more, which is like 15, 20, probably about 30% more, but they get double the wounds, so they get a lot more survivability. Sure, they lose core, but like if you're just going to bring them on at the side of the board or something and not worry about the core keyword, it's not that big a deal. Yeah, Assault 6 on those twin bolt rifles. And all bolt rifles, intercessors, incursors and infiltrators, I don't really rate their shooting ever because they're usually busy doing other actions and stuff, but I mean, I guess you could do a little bit of shooting with these guys too. So yeah, I think, and then I guess your eliminators, you know, they've got the hyperfrag rounds, which gives them heavy D3, strength 5, no AP, 1 damage shots. So against horde-based armies, they could do a little bit of firepower as well. So overall, anti-infantry is pretty strong in terms of shooting. You do not really want your Sanguinary Guard, your Vanguard veterans tied up against crappy enemy infantry, but you do have some incursors that could do some of that, and you do have some intercessors that could do some of that. I'd rather have the -1 AP than the 3 shots. I think is it just -1 AP? I thought it was -2. Or is it just -2 when it's heavy doctrine? I didn't use the infiltrator. I didn't use the eliminators enough to remember off the top of my head. No, they're -2. What's the other shot? The executioner round? Each time an attack is made with this weapon, add 1 to the attack's hit roll and the target cannot benefit by cover. Yeah, or you could do the mortis round, which does mortal wounds in addition. I feel like you probably do the mortis rounds if you don't do the hyperfrag rounds. Hey Aaron, good afternoon. Which 5 lists this week? Aaron, Balanced Hydra, Caps Boy, and Christopher Mason. And I should have probably put that at the top of the stream, shouldn't I? We're on list number 1, and this is by Anthony. Okay. Oh, you were talking about the intercessors. Oh, right. You'd rather just have regular bolt rifles. I guess you would lose a little bit of range, I guess, but you'd have the -1 AP. Okay. Do you know what? A lot of people run the auto bolt rifles, so it seems to be a popular pick. I was guessing it's just for weight of fire. I haven't run intercessors at all in 9th edition. I don't even think I've run them once. I just always tended to go for Phobos troops or assault intercessors, I guess. Right. 3 damage weapons, what we got? We've got our captain with his mastercrafted weapon. We've got possibly our librarian doing some sort of smite. We've got, I guess the Judiciar can do some 3 damage stuff because he can do some mortal wounds. The dreadnoughts gives us like 7. A couple of thunderhammers here gives us like 9. A couple of multi-meltas gives us like 11 3 damage weapons. So it's got a decent amount of punch. 8-man Sanguinary Guard is a lot of punch if you can keep them alive. 5 Vanguard Veterans is medium. The Redemptors will do some work. The Blade Guards will definitely do some work as well. They're generally very survivable. And okay, I think we've seen stronger though against enemy monsters and stuff. And I think the 3 troop choices, the 2 characters that aren't really geared to do a lot of damage, and Eliminators, yeah, I mean, they're not going to do much against enemy armor, so maybe like 8.5 here. Mobility-wise is pretty decent. We've got 2 Redemptors that aren't mobile. We got Eliminators that could be mobile if you switch the captain's weapon. The Blade Guard and Judiciar kind of don't need to be mobile because they're moving middle, probably with the Intercessors. Incursors have guerrilla tactics and their characters are all mobile. So I guess mobility on this list is kind of middle of the road. I think it's like a 7. It's probably just like 1, 2, 3, 4 units that really aren't mobile, which is kind of high, and then a couple that are like average, like the Redemptors, and then specializations. So it's definitely got enough units to perform actions. It also has a fight last. It also has 1 deny, but it could be upgraded to 2 denies. And it does have like 11 3 damage weapons or above. Guerrilla tactics can be used on the Eliminators as well. I think with the double move on the Eliminators, maybe we could, if it was an Instigator Bolt Carbine on the Eliminator Sergeant, and I guess if you did put the Eliminator Carbine on the Bolt Sergeant, if you did put the Instigator Bolt Carbine on the Sergeant, then that carbine doesn't get the option of the special ammo, and it is a little bit weaker, right? I'll just throw it up because I literally just was on the page. Here. Instigator Bolt Carbine. 24 inches, assault 1. But, I mean, because it's an assault weapon, it would be pretty good for giving the Quake bolts, right? Because the problem with giving the Eliminator Sergeant the Quake bolts, if he's got the bolt rifle, is the second he moves, he's -1 to hit, right? Whereas, like, this gun, he is not going to be -1 to hit, and if you really need him, you could move 6 inches, and he could assault, and he could shoot his Quake bolts. So his threat range on the Quake bolts, if he had the Investigator Bolt Carbine, I think feels better to me. So yeah, I mean, keep the eliminators, but I think you really want to find a way to get Chief Librarian into this list. I think it makes it quite a bit stronger. Let me look at the scoring. What did we say? Specialization, I think there's no real weakness, maybe. So maybe we'll go for a 9.5 specialization. And that's kind of harsh. That's kind of high, but it meets the priorities that I always look at, which is like 3 damage weapons, units for actions, denies, fight last, right? So it can do all these things. Now, if we did go Chief Librarian, then I guess probably specialization would probably move to 10, right? Because now you're talking about 2 denies and more casts as well, and more utility out of that librarian. And does that change anything else? Possibly not. But if we move the Quake bolts around, yeah, you know what? Maybe that should be a 9, and we could, if we move the Quake bolts around and we give him Chief Librarian, that could become a 10, and maybe having the ability to do Null Zone would put up like one of these, probably put up anti-vehicle / monster effectiveness. If you come up against army with any invulnerable saves or big units that are going to have that, you'd obviously have an advantage there. So I think this list could probably be pushed up to like a 42.5, and I think this is a pretty, like, we get a good amount of battalions, right? This is a pretty good battalion. I suppose the thing with battalions is you're always like pigeonholed into that you must take the 3 troop choices, and usually when we see 3 troop choices, there's always a squad of infiltrators and there's always a squad of incursors. Sometimes we see doubling up on those, and then sometimes, you know, it's pretty common to see a squad of intercessors with bolt rifles as well. So there's not too much variance in this, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a solid battalion. And I guess it's going to start with a good number of CP, right? It doesn't say. Well, he spent 2 relics of the chapter, and then we want him to take. He's got 2. We want him to take 2 heroes of the chapter, right? So I think it's going to be 8 CP. Oh, an Angel's Exemplar. So he's going to start with 7, but 7's decent. 7 feels like quite a lot to start with. That gives you 12 throughout the game. I think that's fine. I think my list's starting on 6, and I'm pretty much always going to be putting some models into strategic reserve as well, which probably puts it down to 5. Anything less than 5 maybe is a problem. Alright, I'm going to leave that for Anthony. Hopefully he catches the replay and gets some feedback out of that. I'm running 2 assault intercessors in my battalion, spent the CP to reserve them, come in from the flanks and come close to the backfield for deep strike. Yeah, I mean, I thought about that as well, Steel Rain. It's a nice cheap deep striking squad, 95 points, the assault intercessors, right? How much power level is a squad of assault intercessors off the top of your head, do you know? I mean, I can check. Assault intercessors 5. Alright, so I guess if you reserve 2 of them, you have like what, 9 other power level for stuff you can put stuff into. YouTube warning, don't forget to value your integrity when posting into this chat. I don't know what that means. Okay, moving on to Balanced Hydra. List number 2 for today. And I didn't say at the start, but at the end of the stream we always post all the lists into the comments section, maybe like an hour or 2 after the stream ends. So if you need to check up on any of the lists after the stream, please just check the comment section down below. Okay. Balanced Hydra says, sorry Commander, but I guess he's saying bringing out the big boys list. Maybe you can use it to help you out of your slump. Hey, I'm not in a slump. I won a game last week. This list is pretty self-explanatory. And I guess we'll see if I'm still in a slump when we play Sisters tomorrow, but Sisters do so many mortal wounds. It's a big problem. I don't have enough mortal wound protection in my list. I feel like I've got good protection against Psychic with the double denies, but Sisters don't need to use Psychic to do mortal wounds, I guess. Okay, Patrol Detachment. 825 points. We start with a Captain on a Bike with Soul Warden, so he has gone for the 5+ Feel no pain against mortal wounds and a 6-inch aura around the captain, gift of foresight, and also armor indomitus, an infernal pistol, and thunderhammer. So pretty tanky captain on a bike, but also giving a aura of 5+ feel no pain. It's pretty good. Okay, and then drop mantle for Soul Warden. I mean, I could. It's hard to drop. It's hard, if you're trying to make a list that's good in a lot of situations, it's hard to drop one thing to fight a specific army, right? Okay. We then have a Primaris Tech Marine with Master of the Forge. There's nothing else you can customize on the Tech Marine. He's just got Master of the Forge, so he heals a flat 3 damage each turn. I feel like this is going to be a dread heavy list, and if it is, I almost feel like it's almost better that the Tech Marine has Soul Warden, but let's see. We then got a squad of infiltrators, 120 points. We have Death Company Dreadnought, pair of Furioso Fists, pair of Heavy Flamers and Smoke Launchers. And I think this is a good way to keep the Death Company Dreadnought very cheap. We've talked about this a few times on stream, in that if you just take the Furioso Fists, you're still going to wound pretty much everything in the game on 2s, because you're going to be strength 12 with +1 to wound. So unless you're fighting something that's got transhuman, then Furioso Fists are probably... It's hard to validate the 10 extra points you pay for the Blood Talons, right? Heroic Bearing plus Litany of Faith. Yeah, do you know what? I've not got my chaplain set up to have that, but maybe that's an option as well. I've gone a bit more smash on my chaplain. We then have a Redemptor Dreadnought with the Heavy Flamer, Macro Plasma, and Grenade Launchers. I feel like if there was 5 more points, I much prefer the Onslaught Cannon over the Heavy Flamer here, but that's just me. And then the Whirlwind with a Hunter Killer Missile? Okay, yeah, I would take that Hunter Killer Missile off and replace with the Onslaught. I mean, the Whirlwind should really be out of line of sight, so if it's out of line of sight, you're going to get very little value from the Hunter Killer Missile. Maybe you're saving the Hunter Killer Missile to come round and shoot something, I guess, but I mean, the Whirlwind only hits on 3s. It's not really a guarantee to do much. So Hunter Killer Missile, I have a little bit of a question mark around. Plus, I kind of hate weapons that you only get to shoot once. We then have a Librarian Dreadnought, Quickening, Shield of Sanguinius, Wings of Sanguinius. He's also got Iron Resolve, so set up to be pretty tanky, the Librarian Dreadnought, with his 9 wounds and the 6+ Feel No Pain. Yeah, I mean, maybe you're right, Adam. Maybe Soul Warden on my captain would just be a better play. Maybe. I don't know how I feel about it. Blood Angels are in a tough spot at the moment, right? But yeah, maybe Soul Warden would be better. Going all melee has solved my sister's problem. Having the melee bodies that I can lose without losing much total power helps. Yeah, I mean, all melee is definitely useful against sisters, because they just literally, you wound everything on 2s, even with like assault intercessors with chainswords, right? You still wound them on 2s, so they just melt. Alright, we've got Dreadnought with Twin Las Cannon and the combat weapon and Heavy Flamer. I guess the theme of this list is every Dreadnought's going to have a Heavy Flamer, so they're going to be difficult to charge. An Ironclad with the Chain Fist, a Heavy Flamer, and a Hurricane Bolter, and also the Ironclad Assault Launchers. I'm not sure you get that much value out of the Assault Launchers. You have to pay points for these as well, don't you? Who's the expert on Ironclads? I think it's Steel Rain. I feel like it's Steel Rain. If it's not, it's Rezio. Ironclad Dreadnought. Yeah, you have to pay 5 points for the Assault Launchers. I feel like that's kind of pointless. I feel like no one's going to be overwatching your Ironclad Dreadnought if it's coming in at toughness 8. Or very few things are going to overwatch your Ironclad Dreadnought. And then you have to what's the assault? You have to pay CP to use the assault launchers as well. So you have to pay points to equip them, and you have to pay CP to use them. And I think you can do a max of D3 mortal wounds. I'm not sure it's worth it. And we then have assault terminators with thunderhammers, 5 of them. We have regular terminators with chain fists and power fists and stormbolters and a heavy flamer in there as well, and the captain with the power sword, of course. Then a venerable dreadnought with a multi-melta and another heavy flamer, and another venerable dreadnought with a multi-melta and a heavy flamer. And the advantage of the venerable dreadnought is it's got the weapon skill of 2, right? And it also has 6+ feel no pain. So I think the venerable dreadnought is just quite a lot better than the regular dreadnought for the extra points you pay, right? Like, and I think we talked about this on one of the tier list videos. A regular dreadnought comes in at like 120 points. You throw a multi-melt on at 125. The venerable dreadnought comes in at 135. You throw a multi-melt on it, and it's 140. So you're basically paying 15 points for +1 on your weapon skill and ballistic skill, and a 6+ feel no pain. And it's on 8 wounds at -1 damage. And so essentially it puts it, so like what's 8 times 1.66666? Because that's how many extra wounds realistically it gives it, right? 8 times 0.16666. So potentially it makes it 9.3 wounds. So it doesn't sound like all that much more. But, I mean, normally if you think about it, an extra wound usually costs 10 points, right? So you're getting a 1.3 wounds, so arguably that costs 13 points. So then you're getting the ballistic skill and the weapon skill increase from 3 to 2. On both weapon skill and ballistic skill, you're basically getting that for like 1.7 points. When you put it that way, that's actually very, very good, right? Like, that just makes venerable dreadnoughts very cost effective, I think, compared to regular dreadnoughts. And obviously, if you're going to be healing these with a tech marine, the fact that they have the feel no pain, maybe it lets them linger 1 turn longer. If they can linger 1 turn longer, they can then be healed. And remember, these guys don't get profiled, right? So they still shoot on their weapon skill and ballistic skill of 2s when they're on 1 wound left. Sorry, thank you for pointing that out. I was seeing that the Quake bolts were here on this Terminator Sergeant. I missed that. I appreciate you pointing that out, Hydra. Oh, of course you did, because this is your list. My bad. Alright, so 2 venerable dreadnoughts, an ironclad dreadnought, a dreadnought with twin las and heavy flamer, 2 Terminator squads, a librarian dreadnought, a redemptor dreadnought, a death company dreadnought, infiltrators, Primaris Tech Marine, the captain on the bike, and the librarian dread. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 dreadnoughts, 2 squads of terminators, a whirlwind, a squad of infiltrators, and the Tech Marine and the captain on the bike. Yeah, I think I prefer the venerable dreads like this as well. I guess everything has heavy flamers on it, so it's pretty difficult to charge. Okay, let's think a little bit about scoring then. And also, let's think a bit about any synergies that we could have used. So we do have our librarian with the 3 powers. We do have the Tech Marine here, and then Quake bolts on the Terminator Sergeant. Why not Quake bolts on the Primaris Tech Marine, right? He has ballistic skill of 2. He has an assault weapon. He has 24-inch range. Based on what we said in the last list, having Quake bolts on someone that has a 2+ ballistic skill versus 3+ ballistic skill, it's just going to make it I mean, like, you're going to go from what? Probably 3 and 5. So arguably the Terminators are going to start off the board as well. So probably 2 and 4. So you're going to have Quake bolts 50% of the game if you have them on the Terminator Squad Sergeant. If you have them on the Primaris Tech Marine, potentially you have them on 100% of the game. Yeah, I know you lose a couple of shots from the Forge Bolter, but I feel like whatever you lose from the Forge Bolter, you probably make up on the fact that Quake Bolts will probably, they're just more likely to hit. The 5 points from the Hunter Killer I would put on an Onslaught Cannon on the Redemptor. You've got so many other Dreadnoughts with heavy flamers. If for some reason they manage to charge the Redemptor and it doesn't have a heavy flamer, it's really not the end of the world. Change the Las Cannon Dread to a 3rd Venerable with Multi-Melta for the same points. That's probably valuable, actually. But, I mean, I guess the Las Cannon just gives you a little bit more range. Maybe you need something to sit on that backfield objective carry. So, if you want to just leave a Twin Las Cannon Heavy Flamer Dreadnought on a backfield objective and just shoot every turn. Yeah, Las Cannons are more swingy than Multi-Meltas, but, I mean, it's a good... you can't... Multi-Meltas will be limited by their 24-inch range at some point. And also, I guess Balanced Hydra doesn't have a 3rd Venerable Dreadnought, so that's ultimately the problem here. But yeah, the other thing you could do with those 5 points, I guess, is you could give one of your squads of Terminators the beacon that lets them redeploy, the homing teleport homer, I think. I think it'd probably be more valuable in your Thunderhammer squad. The Thunderhammer squad come down, they make a charge, they kill whatever they're charging at because it's a crap load of Thunderhammers, and then you pick them up off the board and look to redeploy them and do the same thing again. What else do I need to say about this list? I mean, generally this list causes people problems because of all the -1 damage, and so much of the list has very high toughness. I kind of like both these squads of Terminators. I was thinking of making a squad of Terminators myself, or painting a squad of Terminators myself next, after I finish what's needed for this army list that I'm doing. I think the 3 wounds on the Terminators gives them some added survivability. Well, obviously it does, but I actually think it makes a big difference when you come up against lists that have a lot of 2 damage weapons in them, right? Basically, every Terminator needs a second 2 damage fail, and Terminators with Storm Shields deployed into cover essentially have a 0-up save, so you need to hit them with like -2 AP, and they're still saving on 2s. So I think you can use these guys pretty tactically as well. And yeah, I mean, Highland is saying maybe the Teleport Homer. So if you already have this Redemptor Dreadnought with the Heavy Flamer and you don't have any way to get the Onslaught Cannon on here, maybe a Teleport Homer in one of these squads would actually be really good. I think it would be okay on the Stormbolter Terminators as well, because, I mean, they have Bolter Discipline, so you get to shoot the Stormbolters 20 times, so you can drop them in, you can rinse a squad of crap, and then you could pick them up and do the same again. Yeah, the amount of Dreadnoughts here, you're going to have a slightly less on mobility score, that's for sure. And I guess let's have a start then. We're gonna have slightly less on OBSEC as well, because we just have that one OBSEC unit. I assume that you're going to park one Dreadnought, probably the one we mentioned, on a backfield objective as well. So it's not going to be like super unsafe. How are we going to do against hordes? I think we're going to do pretty great in that everything has a heavy flamer. So if anything charges us, we're going to be able to do some heavy flamer damage. We have a decent amount of firepower here as well. Not that much anti-horde firepower, albeit. Like one Hurricane Bolter, the Storm Bolters that we talked about before, potentially the Whirlwind, and then I was going to say, and then maybe like the Heavy Flamers on the Death Company. So Dreadnoughts in melee combat don't typically do that well against horde units, because like the strength of the Dreadnought is big damage against single targets. So I want to say that anti-horde might cause a bit of a problem if they can just like swarm into your Dreadnoughts. But we'll see. And then anti-vehicle monsters. So let's think about 3 damage weapons. So we have 2 on this first one, then we have 4. Then we have some Chain Fist here, so we've got 6. We've got Thunderhammers, we've got 11. We've got another Chain Fist here, which gives us 12. Twin Las Cannon and gives us like 13. This Dreadnought gives us 14. This Dreadnought gives us 15, 16. This Dreadnought gives us 17. and Captain on the Bike had a Thunderhammer. So 18 3-damage weapons. So against enemy armor and vehicles, and also surviving against those multi-damage shots, you're gonna do really well. I think this is like a 9.5. Again, it doesn't have weight of attacks, this list, right? Like, it has a lot of big damage stuff, but not that many weight of attacks. So that might be the slight disadvantage of going all dreads. I think there's a really nice place right now where you can go half dreads, half. And, you know, you might not be that far away from it here with your 2 Terminator assault squads. Like, it might be worth, like, losing a dread or 2, like, if you go through this list and pick the ones that are going to be the least valuable to you, and replacing them with, like, I don't know, it could be a small Sangray Guard, it could be a small Vanguard Vets or something with Lightning Claws, just something to add a bit of mobility and make up for the weakness that potentially you heal. Because I guess, yeah, when we talk about mobility, we've got 7 dreads, and they're all not mobile, and we've got Terminator squads, and they're not mobile. I mean, they can deep strike in, but after that, they're not mobile. So yeah, I mean, like a 5 for mobility, probably. Specialization, though, we've got the fight last. We've got denies. I think we've got 2 denies, right? Because he's the Chief Librarian, yep. We also have just 1 unit for performing objectives. I mean, you could use Terminators to perform objectives, but it's not going to be ideal. And then we've got a ton of 3-damage weapons, so like an 8.5 or something like that. And it's a weird one, right? Because like on this balanced scoring criteria that we have here, this list is not going to score that well, but I guess in some games this list is going to be very, very difficult for enemies to win games against. And this list is kind of part of the reason that I stopped fielding battalions, right? Because like, if you think about it, troops against this list are going to be damn near useless, right? Because everything is going to be T7. Yeah, everything's going to be T7. So if you have like, I don't know, even like we talk about people liking those auto bolt rifle intercessors. So 15 shots, hitting on 3s, that gives you 10 hits. Wounding on 5s, that gives you what, 3 wounds against these dreadnoughts, and then just a 3+ save. So 3 wounds on a 3+ save. So your squad of intercessors, 100 points, are going to do 1 damage to one of these dreadnoughts. And the time that I stopped playing battalions was when I was fighting into custodes quite a bit, and like Blood Angels troops, even assault intercessors with their -1 AP and incursors with their -1 AP, they really don't do jack to, like, the Custodes bikes are toughness 6, the Death Guard, that I play a lot again, are toughness 5. They really don't do that much against them. So this is a weird list, Hydra, in that like you're gonna score low because 2 of our categories are obsec and melee. Mobility. But like it really doesn't reflect how well this list will do. So please don't take the low scoring that this is a bad list. Tony in the chat says he approves of this list. It's just going to be different. It's hard to quantify, but like some people will actually really struggle against this list. Like if you have a standard battalion, you've got 300 points that each round is going to do like maybe 1 damage to the dreadnoughts if they're lucky, and then they're just going to get blown off the table. Alright, let's think about feedback then. That's what we can do. We can give you some feedback rather than score you badly, I guess. I think in my list I'm playing a squad. Do I have my list on my desktop right now? Yeah. I think this is my current list. My squad of Vanguard veterans. Is this my current list? 184 points is giving me what? And I think this has actually changed. This is a slightly older list. But you're spending 195 points on that second Terminator squad. Could you, for 196 points, so 1 more point, Do you have... Is this a 2,000 point exactly, or is it like 1999? Damn it. Okay, it's 2,000 points exactly. But for one more point, you could have what? Like 4 lightning claws, and you could probably have 5 lightning claw. Let me just do this, right? So if this was lightning claw, that would be plus 3 points, and if this was a thunderhammer, that would be another plus 2 points. So for 189 points, you can have 6 Vanguard veterans with lightning claws and 1 thunderhammer. And yes, it's not going to be as good, I guess, as shooting or possibly damage output than this Terminator squad. But is it going to give you the mobility that you need? I'm trying to think how many Sanguinary Guards you can do for 195, because they're 32 per model now, right? So 195 divided by 32. So you can do 6 Sanguinary Guard. Maybe that, and then you've got the 5 points on that Hunter Killer Missile that we thought as well was kind of a low value, or low... Yeah, I think it's a low value pick, because you've probably got the Whirlwind hidden on a backfield objective. So would adding 1 jump squad here of like Vanguard veterans or Sanguinary Guard add something that this list is missing? And yeah, in most games, I guess, we recommend the Whirlwind as good as a backfield objective holder. But, someone who just said in chat, Steel Rain, you could take the Whirlwind out here in this list actually and put the Judasar in, because the Judasar is going to be protected from Lookout Sir by all these dreadnoughts. And I assume you've got enough dreadnoughts here, you can stomp a couple of them into the middle of the board, right? So if you can stomp a couple in the middle of the board, you could potentially save up like 40 points, I guess, by dropping the Whirlwind. We already noted that this one dreadnought is going to be more survivable than the Whirlwind anyway, I guess, because it's got Duty Eternal and it can sit in a backfield objective. So at that point, that gives you 40 points. Plus we already said that you could drop one of these squads, so you could almost have like 7 Sanguinary Guard, have them off the board in deep strike so they're totally safe, and bring them in where you need them next to the captain on the bike. I find 7 Sanguinary Guard with the captain on the bike, when it's turn 3, they're an assault doctrine, and you get 5 attacks per model. You're looking at what, like 35? Let's say they're just all have swords. Swords are actually the weaker of the two choices right now, but let's just say they all have swords for simplicity. So you've got 35 swords hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s if they're within 6 of the captain. So you end up, I think that's a 97% chance to hit if you hit on 2s, re-roll 1s. So 35 swords times 0.97. So we get, we basically, you drop 1, right? So you get... Oh shit, no, 35. I did 36, sorry. Alright, yeah, you still drop 1. So you get 34 strength 5 hits with +1 to wound. If you throw that, and they're all 2 damage, mind you. If you throw that into just about anything, the only thing that's going to do great against that is like other dreadnoughts with -1 damage. I threw the whole Sanguinary Guard into like an Astrea super heavy tank that had -1 damage because it was a iron. It was an Iron Hand super heavy tank, and you need the Iron Stone. Iron Stone is like a relic or what that can give a single vehicle for Iron Hands -1 damage. It basically gives Duty Eternal to that. And I think I profiled that tank that has like, what is it? It's got 26 wounds plus Void Shields. I think I took it down to like 9 wounds in turn 1 and had it on like its lowest bracket, or damn close to its lowest bracket. So it might be worth thinking about a jump unit. And I guess a jump unit would give you... This is why I think potentially the Teleport Homer might be better than your Thunder Killer Missile as well, because... what did I say? Thunder Killer. Sorry, Hunter Killer. Because at the end of the game, let's assume you go second. You might be winning the game, you might have the enemy cleared out on a lot of objectives, but you just can't get where you need to be because Terminators only move 5 inches now, and all your dreadnoughts kind of don't move that far either. A bunch of them move 6 and stuff. So that's why Teleport Homer might help you score. In turn 4, if you think like you're ahead, you just pick up a unit of Terminators off the board with a plan of dropping them onto an objective at the end of the game, and or at the beginning of your turn 5. And if you went second, you score at the end of your turn 5, right? I also don't know if fight first is quite as important, actually, with all these dreadnoughts, right? Fight first is really important if your units are, if we're basically toughness 4 Space Marines that are going to get slaughtered by just about anything. Because let's face it, I had a fetid boat drone kill my entire squad of Sangre Guard in one turn last week, right? That's like a 130 point model, and it killed the whole squad in a single turn. So I think fight first is really important if you're using stuff like that. But I think if you've got just shitloads of dreadnoughts, and I think Highland Phoenix is saying the whirlwind is. I think the whirlwind becomes less important when the enemy isn't going to just slaughter you in a single turn. What is? Let me bring up the profile for a fetid bloat drone, because I want to just its toughness is strength 6 and its flesh more is strength 7. Yeah, so and you make 3 hit rolls. So against the Sangre Guard, for example, you've got your 12 attacks, and you hit half the time, and then you wound on 2s because they're Death Guard. So you need to take 5 saves on the Sangre Guard, and each one is a dead model, and these are at -2. So you should average, you should lose 3 on average, but I lost 7. Go figure, that must have been some roll by Colin. But yeah, if we take the same bloat drone, 12 attacks, and put it into a dreadnought. Dreadnought's toughness 7, so it's only 3s to wound. And then Dreadnought would save on 5s. And then it's -1 damage. So so a fetid bloat drone, which can kill 7 Sangre Guard in a single turn, does on average about 3 damage against a dreadnought. So the fight last is ultimately way less important. Now, if you do what I said and bring a squad of Sangre Guard or something, yeah, that changes things a bit, but I think it's something to maybe consider. And you are short on units that can do actions. So if you did remove the whirlwind, bring in the Judiciar, that gives you 40 points. 40 points is literally the cost of 2 company veterans. So just 2 company veterans. You can either arm them with double chain swords, or you could arm them with a bolter and bolt pistol. I think they can actually be armed with a bolt pistol and chain sword, but I mean, your choice. Those company veterans could just be that 1 extra unit for 40 points that can help you score Relentless Assault, engage in all fronts, Oath of the Moment, and or do other actions. That might be a good thing. And I don't know if the whirlwind is super needed here as well. The Thunderfire as well, that's a good point. The Thunderfire cannon, while its damage output is pretty terrible, it does come with another Tech Marine, which would give you a second Tech Marine for repairs, but it's just the D3 repairs. I'm leaning towards just getting rid of the whirlwind in this game, though. It's, I think the whirlwind is more to protect big, I always talk about how easy Sangre Guard die, so the whirlwind is more about protecting stuff like that. If you don't have that, then I think you can do it with the Judiciar. And yeah, I mean, Terminators will suffer against the fetid bloat drones as well, I guess, but I mean, not quite as bad, because some of the damage will be lost because they have 3 models. Most of what you need fight last against is midfield anyway. Yeah, that's a very good point. Unless you're specifically targeting something off on a board edge, and then maybe you would try and put your I think you can. I've seen a bunch of tournament lists use the Judiciar over the whirlwind. And yeah, I think it's a trade-off. The whirlwind gives you more options, but it's more greedy on CP, right? Okay, hopefully we gave you some useful knowledge, Hydra, and yeah, I mean, I guess play the list, what this list needs is another dreadnought. There you go. We need to find a way to get another dreadnought into the list. I like your thinking, Ollie. I suppose you could drop the one squad of Terminators and get your points for the company veterans that way, and then have another dreadnought. But yeah, I usually say to people, play the lists before you make any changes, and let me know what you let me know how you get on and what you think. All right, let's have a look at Caps Boy next. Replace the Whirlwind with a Dread. Yeah, I mean, fight last becomes a lot less needed, I think, if you're just going Dread heavy across the board, right? Okay, anyway, let's look at Caps Boy, and this is going to be interesting because this is not a full list, I guess. He hasn't left me any comment, and he has a chaplain on a bike who is Legends. Alright, you want some fight last, I think. I think you do, but I don't know if you... I don't know if it's as important if you just have that many dreads, honestly. So yeah, straight away, I mean, if you've got this chaplain on a bike, go ahead and buy yourself a Primaris chaplain on a bike. He's plus 20 points, and he is very good. I've been painting mine for the last few weeks, and there's a lot you can do with this Primaris chaplain on the bike. Okay, then we have 2 squads of Assault Intercessors and 1 squad of Infiltrators, and I think this is fine. I mean, I used to run the opposite of this, so I used to run 2 Infiltrators and 1 Assault Intercessor squad. Steel Rain was saying he's paying to reserve these guys, and I think either way is fine. Like, these guys can start on the board. They do tend to get targeted because it's hard to keep them in cover, but yeah, I mean, Assault Intercessors, Infiltrator squads, sort of solid troop choices. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it isn't important. I'm just saying it's less important. I mean, maybe you don't want to... yeah, I mean, I'd probably keep a way to do it. So I think if it was me, I'd probably drop the Whirlwind, I'd take the Judas CR, and then I'd take 2 company veterans. I'd probably, if it's me, because I just recently did company veterans, I feel like company veterans don't really kill anything with 2 single bolt gun shots, so I just arm them with double chain sword. And I think the Sergeant gets 3 attacks. So 2 extra chain. Let me just check this, because I feel like the 2 guys together got like 12 attacks. I've got it here. So if you arm them with double chain sword, your Sergeant has 3 attacks, 2 more chain swords, so 5 attacks, 6 attacks from the Sergeant, 7 attacks from Savage Echoes, and the other guy gets 6. So yeah, the 2 guys potentially, if you give them double chain sword, get 13 attacks. So for 40 points, 13 attacks is really actually not that bad. Assault Intercessors on the charge get 26 attacks, and they're 95 points. So point for point, these guys actually get more attacks than Assault Intercessors. And they save just the same. You know, they're still Marines, they still have toughness 4, they still have 2 wounds. So company veterans with double chain sword, yeah, sure, you lose the bolt pistol, but let's be real. How many times have we actually killed anything with the bolt pistols from Blade Guard veterans or company veterans or Assault Intercessors? Every single time it's like you get so little shots, and you only usually wound on 4+ that, like, it's just, yeah, exactly, never is the answer. If your Blade Guard veterans do 1 wound to something with their pistols, that's a good day, because normally they do fuck all. So company veterans with double chain swords, yeah, I suppose you do lose transhuman and fight again, but really, are you playing transhuman on Assault Intercessors? Like, I'd be saving transhuman on a unit that I care more about, like my Blade Guard. And yeah, I mean, the fight twice is good, but see, here's the problem with or here's my problem with Honor the Chapter, right? Like, and I'm sure you know the stratagem because you're in, you talk. I'm 100% sure you know the stratagem, but what I don't like about this is, right, Honor the Chapter. At the end of the fight phase, select one Assault Intercessor unit and they can fight again. Why isn't this 1/2 CP1? Because every other book in this codex, every other book this edition, it would be 1 for 5 or less guys and 2 for 5 or more guys, right? This actually, like, this is infinitely better if you have a 10-man Assault Intercessor squad, but, like, as far as I'm aware, not many people are running 10-man Assault Intercessor squads, right? But that's just my opinion. Okay. If it was a 1/2, I would like Honor the Chapter a lot more. Alright, we then have a Redemptor Dreadnought, Macroplasma, and the Onslaught. We then have 4 Sanguinary Guard, Bolt Guns, and Swords. Axes are starting to get better, I hear, and I don't like Sanguinary Guard in squads of less than 7. 7 to 9 is my ideal picking. This list looked like it was missing some points, so straight away I would add like 3 more Sanguinary Guard here. What would that be like? Plus 96 points. That was what I would add them, and I would add them with axes because you've already got sword guys, so I would add 3 more with axes. We have then Assault Terminator Squad with Thunderhammers. Vanguard Veteran Squads, mainly with Lightning Claws and Storm Shields, 1 with the double Lightning Claw. Again, I actually don't like the double Lightning Claw here. The extra 1 attack it gives, you lose quite a lot of survivability, right? Like, you lose +1 to your save and a 4+ invulnerable save for 1 extra attack. I don't know, the 1 extra attack, if you think about it, right? Like, this squad of Lightning Claw guys, they get 2 attacks, 3 from charging, so it's 5 attacks. They get 2 attacks, 1 from Lightning Claw, and then up to 5 from charging, so it's 20 attacks, right? So you get 1 more attack here by having the double Lightning Claw. So in the grand scheme of things, that gives you like plus 5% damage. So is 5% damage worth it to lose your invulnerable save, which is a really good invulnerable save. It's a 50-50 invulnerable save on the 4+, and lose your 2+ normal save. I disagree with that pick, but I mean, some people like to do Lightning Claws in the middle of the squads, and then they feel like it'll be okay, but like, I dislike it. Inceptors with Assault Bolters, I am painting them right now. I like them. Not as effective as their Plasma brothers, but not as heavy in the points cost nearly as the Plasmas. Eradicators with Melta Rifles, it's 4 of them, and then the Gladiator Valiant tank. I do not remember which one this is, the Gladiator Valiant tank. Let me double check. I don't think we liked any of the Valiants when we looked at them, though. They are expensive, 245 points. This one is the one that has 2 multi-meltas on a twin Las cannon. Twin Las Talon. So it's a heavy 4, 24 inches, strength 9, minus 3d6 damage. I don't like the swinginess of it. I don't like the fact the tank has no invulnerable save. It's only got 12 wounds. It feels overcosted. And yet you spend 200 points on troops instead of elites. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the problem as well, Doctor, spending 200 more points on troops. I made a Knights of Blood Deathwatch veteran for my Blood Angels army, aka my Resurrected Knights of Blood chapter. Yeah, I mean, I think I saw some pictures of people making some Deathwatch guys, or making a Deathwatch squad of Blood Angels on Reddit this week. I'm not sure if that was you, but I like Deathwatch conversions for Blood Angels. They're pretty cool. I mean, last night some people posted some of the screenshots we were talking about in Discord, so feel free to post them into the painting channel over on Discord. Yeah, I mean, the Valiant, because it can get, like, you only need to knock 6 wounds off of it for it to be profiled. So basically, like, a single multi-melta shot at it, which it will not get to save against, can potentially profile it, and then for the rest of the game you've got it and you're only moving 5 inches and you're hitting on 4s. This is not the age of tanks at all. this edition has just made tanks very, very niche and difficult to field. I think the only tank I would field, because we've just finished all these tier list videos, right? The only tank that I am tempted to field at the moment is the Land Raider Proteus, and it's the Forge World version of the Land Raider that comes with the built-in 5+ invulnerable save, and it's pretty cost effective against the regular Land Raider, because your regular Land Raider at the moment, actually, they might have changed the points on them. They did change the points on Land Raiders, didn't they? So your regular Land Raider, which takes 10 guys, is 265 points, and it comes with twin heavy bolter and 2 twin las cannons. The Proteus, which costs 235 points, so 30 points less, it carries the same 10. For 15 points, you give it the 5+ invulnerable save, and it's just got the 2 twin las cannons. So you lose your twin heavy bolter, but you get to put a heavy bolter on here, I'm sure, for free. This model can be equipped with the following: 1 heavy bolter, and you can see here heavy bolter costs you nothing. So potentially all you lose is a heavy bolter, but you're 15 points cheaper, and you've gained a 5+ invulnerable save. Why didn't you mention the Typhon tank in our Forge World video? The Forge World video is in 2 parts. We have done... What was the other categories that we didn't do? We didn't do Lords of War, we didn't do fortifications, we didn't do flyers, and I don't think we did dedicated transports. So that'll be coming next week, James. But... yeah, so like I think this is the only tank I would field, and I think the reason I would field it would be to put 5 Terminators inside it or 3 Centurions and get them up the map very, very quickly and safely. Other tanks I'm just not excited about. They die too easily, pretty much they all lack invulnerable saves, and they're in a bit of a strange position right now. So this list, it needs something added to it. I would probably say it needs... Well, we said we need to add 100 points of Sanguinary Guard. We only have 1 HQ in here, so I think we either need to add... the choices here are really going to be probably a captain, a priest, a Sanguinary Priest, or a Psyker. And potentially you could add 2 of the 3. And I think... if we added a librarian with a jump back, that's 110. We add, let's just add a captain, maybe like a standard jump captain, or do you know what? Let's just add Dante. Why not? Because I know his points off the top of my head. 165. So we add Dante, 165. We add a Psyker, 115. That's 270. We add 96 points here, 366. So you add 366 to here, you're pretty much up at 2,000 points. Maybe you could actually make an 8-man Sanguinary Guard and add 4 guys with axes. The Valiant, though, I hate it. If we just compare this Valiant for 265 points against the one that I just talked about, the Proteus. So the Proteus is going to be, 5 points more? Yeah, it's going to literally be 5 points more. Rather than the twin Las Talon, this has 2 twin Las cannons. So Las Talons versus Las cannons, there's no difference, right? The difference is that the Las cannons get 48 inches and the Las Talons get 24 inches. So literally, you just get more range. Sure, you lose yourself 2 multi-meltas, but what you gain is 4 more wounds, transport capacity of 10, and an invulnerable save. And that is the biggest weakness on these big tanks, is no invulnerable save. Also you save on 2s rather than 3s. So especially with Devastator Doctrine, if you get, even without it, right, you get hit by, multi-meltas are so common at the moment, you get hit with any You get hit with any multi-meltas, and you'll just... Like I said, one multi-melta can potentially kill that, or one multi-melta can profile that Valiant tank, and that's 240 points, and you don't even get a save against it. You know, I just hate that. Just the fact that you cannot even get a save against it. Plus, this Land Raider also has Machine Spirit, which is a great little one. If you don't remember the stratagem with Machine Spirit, it is use a stratagem. You can command phase select one Blood Angel's Machine Spirit model from your army until the start of your next command phase. This model is considered to have its full runes remaining for the purpose of dealing with characteristics on its profile. It's you get 2 twin las cannons on this. So it's basically the same thing. 2 twin las cannons against 2 twin las cannons. So all you lose is a multi-meltas, but you gain more wounds, you gain a better save, you gain an invulnerable save, and the transport capacity, I think, could be really good. You know, if you think about taking like a small death company, for example, you know, like the list that we saw... the list that we saw win that come high in that tournament just had Death Company full of Thunderhammers. So you could put 5 Death Company in here, all with Thunderhammers, and that gives you a very safe way to get your Death Company forward across the battlefield. Alright, this list wasn't complete, so I think I'm going to try and score it based on the fact that, like, we're going to add Dante, we're going to add a Psyker, we're going to make the Sanguinary Guard bigger. Objective holding, I guess, is about an 8. Anti-infantry is kind of weak in terms of shooting. It's okay in melee combat, but I mean, you're not ultimately going to be wanting to do too much melee with. I always think you don't want to be fighting hordes with like your Sanguinary Guard and your most powerful units like Assault Terminators. They don't want to be fighting Poxwalkers, for example, or Chaos Cultists or something, right? They want to be fighting something nasty. Anti-vehicle. Eradicators plus the Valiant, I guess, does give you some good anti-vehicle. It's hard to say it's not going to be strong, but at the same time, I just really hate that tank. I like the look of the new speeder, and I like the look of the new tanks, and I would love to own them, but I don't own either of them. They're just not exciting, and I don't know if it was a mistake by Games Workshop to give all the Dreadnoughts Duty Eternal and just ignore it. So all the Dreadnoughts got Duty Eternal and Core, and all the tanks got nothing. I feel like it should have probably been round the other way, right? Where like all the Dreadnoughts got Core, but all the tanks got like Duty Eternal, or obviously they need to change it because Duty Eternal is like a thematic thing. But like, it feels like they went the wrong way with that, right? Because it's created this age of dreadnoughts, and I mean that's fine. Mobility wise in this list, it's reasonably mobile. Maybe like a 7th, though it's not right up there. And then specialization, so it doesn't have any fight last. Doesn't have any denies, but like I kind of added deny. It's got units for actions. It's maybe short on 3 damage weapons, but maybe not that much actually, because it's got the Thunderhammers and stuff. So this list could actually be decent, I think, if it got filled out. If he added like Dante and the Psyker, and some more Sanguinary Guard, and maybe lost this tank, and you know, he already has 5 Assault Terminators. These guys would be very scary coming out of a Land Raider that can move forward with an invulnerable save, you know? So, interesting. Yeah, I actually don't think it... Like, it's got the meat and potatoes, I guess, of it. This could be a proper good list, but you need to lose the Gladiator. I'm sorry if you... I think these Gladiators are like $50-$60. Like, they're not cheap. I'm sorry if you spent a lot of money on them. They really... I mean, I don't know why Games Workshop have left them. They're just horrendously bad, honestly. 52.50. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. I heard that this Space Marine guy was like... I saw someone's... Yeah, 200... Why is this guy... I asked in Discord earlier, like, why is this guy £200? He's just the same as the one that I bought, right? Only... Gravis? 8 inches tall. The one that I bought was 8 inches tall, and it was like $9.99. I don't know why this guy's $200. Okay. Let me just move this a tiny bit. Yeah, I mean, T9 might help, but I don't think the game would be set up for tanks to have T9. You know that? There'd be far too many times that tanks would end up being needed wound on 6s like far too often, I think, and then that would be a real problem. I think that they need to rethink armor for certain factions, and I think Space Marines is definitely one of the factions, because out with dreadnoughts, armor just isn't very attractive at all. Okay, and then we're going to go into list number 4 for today, and this is by Christopher Mason. Let me just update this. Tanks being tanky, that sounds silly. Yeah, I mean, or just bake in some sort of invulnerable save to all of them, right? Because I mean, especially these new gladiator tanks being like 250 points and just having a 3+ save is it's pretty easy to fail 3+ saves. The second you throw -1 in there, or even -2, it becomes very difficult to consistently make saves. So 245 points to a model that can die to small arms fire pretty consistently is bad. Tanks should have immunity to certain weapon types. That might be a way to do it, or just maybe it could be like a clever version of Duty Eternal, where like if the weapon has 3 or more damage, for example, it's like -1 damage. You know, like they definitely need to think of something, I guess. All right, let's have a look at Chris's list, number 4 for today, and today's last list. And thanks for hanging out, as always, guys. I really appreciate all the views and the likes and the support on the channel. It's much appreciated. Yeah, maybe tanks could ignore -1 AP. That'd be a pretty cool rule as well. And yeah, we're going to be live tomorrow night as well, I think, against Sisters of Battle. So if anyone wants to tune in and see how we deal against Sisters of Battle, that'll be interesting. And I think Andrew's bringing... I think he's back to bringing 3 Retributor squads, each with 2 Cherubs. So that's 12 multi-meltas coming in from reserve. So potentially 36 multi-meltas coming in from reserve. So that's going to be fun. When I play Andrew, he always just doubles down on one thing, and this time it's multi-meltas. We've played that before. I think when I played as Iron Hands, he had a list that I think he got like 50 something multi-melta shots in a single turn. It was just disgusting. So I guess we'll see. Tanks shouldn't have to care about bolters. That's probably it. Yeah, maybe tanks need to just ignore -1 and -2 AP, or just reduce all incoming AP. That might be a way to do it. So anything, you just have to -1 AP when you hit the tanks or something. Like, do something to make the tanks valuable again, because we are in the age of dreadnoughts. Really, we are. Okay, so Christopher's list. We start with a librarian with Null Zone and Psychic Fortress, and while this is good, I really think you need the jump pack here. And we also talked more about Null Zone on the stream earlier and how it really benefits from having Psychic Mastery, so that's something to consider as well. We then have the Sanguinary Priest, who is upgraded, the Chief Apothecary, and the jump pack. We haven't seen him yet today. A few people are moving away from him because he's 155 points, I guess, but he is still good. Assault Intercessors, 1 squad. Redemptor Dreadnought, Frag Storm, Heavy Flamer, Onslaught Cannon, so it's kind of the easy to build variant of the Redemptor, which is probably the weaker option, but I mean, it's okay. I just think the Plasma gives you a lot more versatility here. Use your words, John. Dreads are bad vehicles, but they're core, and that makes them okay. I think, and also their Duty Eternal and all of them makes them really good. My Redemptors generally survive multiple battle rounds in every game, and people always wonder, like, oh, the Redemptors have no invulnerable save, they're going to be weak. Yeah, but the fact that everything is -1 damage and they got 13 wounds keeps them hanging around for quite a long period of time. You'd be surprised. Okay, Eradicators with regular melt rifles, and then we get into the Vanguard detachment, and this Vanguard detachment is the Chapter Master with the jump pack, the Storm Shield, and the Thunderhammer. I feel like I would have given him a relic or Hero of the Chapter for sure. We then have a 300 point Death Company, so this is going to be a 10-man Death Company with couple with power fists, and couple with thunder hammers. How much is a power fist on Death Company? It's surely 10 points. I think I'd probably rather just go with 3 hammers. Because power fists, the problem with spending the points on the power fists is you come up against dreadnoughts like we've just been talking about, or Death Guard. The power fist essentially just does 1 damage, and it's kind of useless. I'm in my wrong book. Dreads are not bad vehicles. Dreads are only beaten by Thunderhawks. Tony just loves his Thunderhawk. 10 points for a Death Company power fist. Then I would run this with, people we often talking about 7 chainswords and 3 thunderhammers. That's how I would do it. I'd save 5 points. Maybe we can use them elsewhere. We then have the Sangre Ancient, and surprisingly, he should really be up. If you're going to run the Sangre Ancient like this with 1, 2, 3, 4 jump pack units, then I assume that you want to be running Wrath of Baal, and potentially even have him as your warlord over the priest. But I mean, it's probably okay to have the priest as the warlord, but you probably definitely want the Wrath of Baal here, or Icon of the Angel, something that either gives them more movement or makes their charges more reliable. We then have a bunch of Sangre Guard, axes, swords, and a power fist. And I have a lot of Sangre Guard with power fists, but I think that what you get from the power fist is countered by the -1 to hit, right? So, for example, Incarmite axes against armor, let's say. So your Incarmite Axe will hit on 3s, your Power Fist will hit on 4s. Your Incarmite Axe then probably will wound on a 3, your Power Fist will wound on a 2. So you gain 1 on your wound roll, but you lose 1 on your hit roll. At that point, what are you paying the 5 points from? Because you roll the hit first. So if you roll badly first, then you get no bonus from the bonus to roll the hit. So Power Fists I have a bunch of Sangre Guard in my drawer with Power Fists, and they're fully painted, and I've spent ages on them. The only reason I think to have power fists is if you don't have swords or axes, right? And that's the only reason I would field mine. Yes, the Sangre Ancient gives you that buff that can make 1 unit +1 to hit, and it can kind of counter the negative from the power fists. But yeah, I really think the only reason to field power fists now, both in the Death Company and the Sangre Guard, is if you don't have a better model. If you do have a better model, I don't think any of the gladiators are particularly good for us, James. I was going to say, can I pull up that tier list? Maybe. Tier list. What are the gladiators again? They're obviously heavy support. Where did we put? I think there was a bug here where things that were getting put into D didn't stay in D, and for some reason, they just fell out. So basically, we had where's the that's a lancer, or that's a gladiator. That's a gladiator, and this is the third. No, that's not the gladiator. Where's the third gladiator? This is one. And this is one. My being blind. Oh, this one. Oh, I think we felt the Lancer. Someone said they still put Eradicators in A. The reason that we liked the Lancer, I think, was because it had a distinct job, right? In that it's got this nice laser destroyer cannon, and its points cost is kind of the most competitive of a lot of the Lancers. And I guess with a 72-inch range, you could deploy it very far back and just cover firing arcs. And your laser destroyer hits on 2s, right? Because you've got this +1 to hit with it. So you don't need a Tech Marine, whereas maybe some of the other ones you do need a Tech Marine. So I guess the Lancer at least has a defined purpose. It really only has that one cannon on it, and if you think about how much a normal laser destroyer costs from Forge World, it's kind of on the same level. 1 less shot, but you hit on 2s rather than hitting on 3s, so it probably kind of averages out. And it is T8 and it is 12 wounds, so it is the same as the laser destroyer, I think. Slightly more points costs though, right? I suppose one thing to mention though is the laser destroyer is probably a resin kit, and those resin kits are usually horrifically difficult to work with. Yeah, so 5 points more expensive than the laser destroyer. Obviously the laser destroyer has less range, and it can do a flat 6 damage if it remains stationary. I mean, it can do it if it moves as well, but you potentially take mortal wounds. I think there's not much difference between D3 plus 3, because that's kind of an average of 5, right? So 1 extra shot on the laser destroyer, half the range though, but then the Lancer does have that hitting on 2s. So one less shot but hitting on 2s. Do you know what? We can just math that. Why am I not just mathing it? So yeah, if you have 3 shots and you hit on 3s, you actually make 2 hits. If you have 2 shots and you hit on 2s, so the laser destroyer is going to get on average 0.3 more hits per turn, but at half the range. So I guess the advantage of this is you could probably deploy it far enough back that the enemy are possibly never in range of it. They need to move in range of it because they do not want to be shot by this laser destroyer every turn, probably hitting, probably wounding, because you're going to wound pretty much everything on 3s. So hitting on 2 shots, hitting on 2s, wounding on 3s, and then possibly the laser destroyer doesn't have a 2+ because it can't be equipped with a siege shield like the regular Vindicator, unfortunately. We said that in our tier list video that would have been really good. Alright, sorry. And then keep going here. A bunch of lightning claws, and I already spoke about how I don't like the double lightning claws in squads. It also makes combat squadding this squad much more difficult. He actually has points here. He's got 9 points, so you could literally take 1, 2, 3, 4 more storm shields and then just have 1 double lightning claw. I love tanks, so I'm going to have a gladiator into the Lancer. Yeah, I mean, if you guys are building stuff and you want to know where to go with stuff, then that's what I would do. So yeah, I would take I'd take Wrath of Baal probably on this. If you're going 1, 2, 3, 4 jump pack units, potentially this is a 10-man, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yes, you can combat squad this. So you're going to have 5 jump pack squads. I'd probably set them up so they can be combat squadded and give them the Wrath of Baal or the Icon of the Angel, because these guys making their charge is going to be the most important thing to win this game. I'd probably also maybe give... How many CPs he got? It's not going to be -3. I think he hasn't added... His first attachment, 650 points, and... Yeah, he hasn't added anything. He's just -3. So he's got 9 CP at the moment. And he's gone for Selfless Healer in his Warlord. Yeah, so he's got 9 CP. So I think you could happily spend 1 CP to give this guy Icon of the Angel of Wrath of Baal. Change the 2 Sanguinary Guard to 7s instead of a 9 and a 5. That's probably a good idea. I mean, the reason I guess he's gone for the 5 is to try and limit blast weapons, right? But the 7s are generally going to kill things that they charge into, whereas 5s can bounce off enemies and not just do that. Jedi says the Gladiator is easy to magnetize, so I have all 3 variants. Oh, that's cool. Gladiator is something that I've liked the look of. I also like the look of those new speeders. I forget what they're called. I really forget what they're called. The Storm Strike speeders, but I've just never got round to any of them. I don't know how to magnetize. I'm still working on my army, so I might just get 2 more gladiators. I've done a very simple video on magnetizing James Fowler. It's not for a gladiator, but I mean the principle of magnetizing can be used on anything. And if you've never done it before, just take the bull by the horns and do it. It will cost you about £10 or £12 to get the equipment you need, which will be like a bunch of small magnets and a drill, and once you've done it, and then some super glue, which I assume you have anyway. So once you've spent those £10 or £12, it will just give you a lot of options for the future, especially if you're ever buying anything from Forge World and stuff like that. Those models are so expensive. You do not want to not magnetize them, because if you have to buy them again, you're going to be out for like an extra £100. And the way that this hobby works is they change the strength of the models every edition, so you really want to make sure that anything that's expensive, like even Redemptors for me, like I have all my plasma cannons on my Redemptors magnetized, I think. I know in my Contemptor it's magnetized. The Contemptor is the one that I did the video on. So if you go over to the YouTube channel and just search like, can you search here? Contemptor. This one, how to magnetize a Contemptor, 11 months ago and nobody watched it, 900 views. But yeah, I mean, it's a 15-minute video. It will show you how I do it. I'm not a pro by any means, but it's not difficult. I'm sure if you Google, or I'm sure if you search on YouTube for someone will have done a video on converting the Lancer. 3 Gladiator Lancers, 2+ to hit, 3+ to wound on D3+3, AB4, 600 points, looks nice. Yeah, I think I could get on board with buying a Lancer. I'm not sure I would run 3 of them. I think that pigeonholes you a little bit, especially against Horde armies. It's definitely going to be wasted points. This is why I think, I thought for a while about bringing 2 laser destroyers, but like I guess if you come up against a Horde army, they're going to be a lot of wasted points. Okay, let's think about Chris's list then. So we have 1 troop unit and it's assault intercessors, so that's pretty weak in terms of holding objectives. This is all scored out. Anti-horde infantry, bunch of Angelus bolt guns, 1 Redemptor dreadnought. That's really it for shooting. Obviously the Death Company can hit hordes and all this lightning claws and stuff can hit hordes, but like I think it's a 7.5, right? You might end up having to fight some of the enemy's hordes with your best units in melee combat. That's not a situation you want to be in. You want to be able to at least shoot out the hordes to a certain extent. In my opinion, 3 damage weapons. And what have we got? We've got the 2 Thunderhammers here and 2 more Thunderhammers here. That gives us 4. Thunderhammer and the Sergeant, or the Captain, sorry, that's 5. Couple of Melta rifles, 3 more. Redemptor 9, 10, and then the Psyker. So yeah, we have 11 3 damage weapons. So it's right on the minimum amount of 3 damage weapons I'd like to see. And I think you 100% want a way to make these guys get across the board quicker, or at least make their charges more reliable. So I think at the moment it's like an 8.5, but that could be improved with a couple of correct relics. Mobility, I guess, is really high, probably like a 9, because you've got 5 jump pack units plus jump characters. If you did put Wrath of Baal or Icon of the Angel there, it could probably be 9.5. And then we don't have a fight last. We kind of suffer. John, thank you so much for subscribing. We don't have a fight last. We have 1 deny, which I guess is okay. But our Librarian isn't mobile. Do you know what? The fact our Librarian isn't mobile makes me want to bring that down to like an 8.5. I really think you would want a jump pack on that Librarian. I think the great thing about a jump pack Librarian with Null Zone is the fact that he synergizes with Sanguinary Guard and Death Company, because these are units that do not have invulnerable saves. So if you cast Null Zone, you lose nothing, and the enemy potentially can lose so much, right? We kind of suffer in that we only have 1 unit for actions. So maybe there's a play here where we try and get like a small squad of company veterans in, just so we have like something else to do actions. And our 1 unit that can do actions are not Phobos, which hurts us quite a lot as well, because the Phobos guerrilla tactics, using them around the map helps a lot. So I think specialization is probably like a 7. Like remove a point because there's no fight last, remove a point because we lack units from actions, maybe remove another half point for we only have 1 deny and we're right on the edge of special weapons. So this, again, this list feels like it could be a very strong list. Just some small changes that probably need to be made. I like the idea of, I think the plasma cannon is always the better choice than the onslaught cannon. I guess he's picked the onslaught cannon maybe to clear out some hordes and stuff, but it's possibly not enough firepower. So at that point, I'd probably just rather the plasma cannon so you can actually kill tough targets. I also love the repulse. I also got the repulsor executioner from my love of tanks, and I also found the website who made 3D doors for the the repulsor, and it was for the flesh tearers. I have a repulsor, but like at the moment, I don't run them. They're very, very like they took the points of land raiders and repulsors down a bit, but like they're still super expensive. I feel like if they had invulnerable saves, even like a 5+ invulnerable save or even a 6+ invulnerable save, maybe that would push me to include them. But like where they are right now, and the fact that multi-meltas are so prevalent, these big bullet magnets that can just get hit with multi-meltas and get no save is kind of horrific. I took a Land Raider right at the start of 9th edition, full of Terminators, and I thought that was okay. But like the Land Raider is T8 and it does save on 2s, so you would get a save against multi-meltas on 6s and 5s against las cannons and stuff. And like I said, it was okay, but like it wasn't exciting, it wasn't good, it was just okay. Okay, so I think that comes in as like 38. So I think today's strongest list goes to Anthony. And that was our first list. And like I said, at the end of the stream, we'll put all the lists into the description of the video, so you can go back and look at any of the lists if you want to look at them. And I think the other thing to say is that Balanced Hydra's list was actually kind of cool. It was all dreadnoughts, and it scored not bad considering it was all dreadnoughts, and he kind of crippled himself in 2 categories, which was like obsec and mobility. So if you ignore those 2 categories, his score was actually like 25.5 out of 30. So I think it was a solid, fun list, and I think we have seen in competitive play a bunch of dreadnoughts, a bunch of lists that just include dreadnoughts. I think we saw Deathwatch one win a tournament, and I think we saw Chris's one, Chris Chance, with the 2 Contemptors and the Redemptor, do really, really well. He only lost against first and second in a tournament as well. So that about wraps it for today, guys. Thank you for the list submissions to the people that submitted. I always appreciate it. And next week, we have James Fisher. I think James was in the chat tonight. Briefly, maybe I'm getting confused with James Fowler. Jar Miniatures was definitely in the chat. Matt Stalker and Sellers Burgunder. And Sellers, actually, you became a member this week. Bad timing, Sellers, considering you were up for list review next week. But no, I appreciate the guys, the new members we got this week. Very much appreciated. So thank you for supporting the channel. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the stream. Thanks for hanging out. If you did enjoy the stream and you would consider hitting the like button, it's always appreciated. And or if you are new here, we do have Blood Angels content come every week, so you can also consider to subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow night, about an hour and a half from now, so 7:30 UK time tomorrow night, and it will be a difficult game. I appreciate it's funny, we were on a bit of a losing streak, maybe like, what was it, like we played 7 games, I think we played 8 games and only won 1, but last week we came out with a very solid victory against Death Guard. I felt like even with a big misplay, I think with the null zone I could have positioned that a lot better. We won't make that mistake again, but so we have Sisters of Battle, who, and I think their codex is very, very strong right now. I'm not gonna say it's overpowered or anything. I just think it's a very good codex. They have a lot of tools and a lot of counters, so it will be a very difficult game. But I just wanted to say that last week's game against Death Guard, even though I was on this crazy losing streak, there was like 7 or 8 of you guys that still bet on me to win the game. You spent your Black Rage points, you still trusted me, you still bet on me to win the game, and I just want to say I appreciate that, because I think I've been struggling a bit since the Chapter Approved book came out. Like it's taken me 8 games to get a list that I felt comfortable with, I guess, because the points cost on some of our key units went up. And yeah, so just thank you to the guys that have bet on me week in, week out. It's very much appreciated. We will be back tomorrow night, and before, as much as I appreciate you guys betting on me, just remember Sisters list Andrew's bringing has, 36 multi-meltas coming in from reserve. I think he can fire them with no minus to hit penalty. I think, not 100% sure, but I think there's a ruling that means, I think he was talking about it and he said that you can bring them in from reserve and you can fire them with no minus to hit penalty, and he's going to have a cannon nest there so they can reroll all their ones and stuff as well. And then he's got those Dominion squads coming in with their Storm Bolters that do almost a guaranteed 6 mortal wounds on an 80-point unit. So it's going to be a very, very difficult game. And yeah, I mean, on one of the games, Andrew almost put his units down within range of the Sanguinary Guard Steel Rain, and I was about to Auspex scan them, and then he said to me, like, hey, can those guys Auspex scan? And I was like, yeah, they are infantry, and he moved them, but like, what am I supposed to say? I'm not gonna lie to him and be like, no, they can't. Put them right next to them, you know? So he's good. He knows that, he knows what units can Auspex scan, and he'll be placing them as smart as he can be, I guess. So it will be a super difficult game. The sisters, yeah, they feel very Alpha Strike, and I know Alpha Strike usually means like turn 1 strike, but it's more like every turn, units coming in from Deep Strike or units coming in from reserve, they can dish out so much damage. So it kind of feels a bit like you have to weather the storm. You have to use the terrain in the map very, very smartly. So we'll try our best, and hopefully we'll see some of you guys tomorrow night. Have a great rest of your weekend, and thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I will see you guys tomorrow. By the blood are we made, brothers. Peace.